welcome back to another one. Like, we're getting back to our series on unions. This is part 3. And this is the last short video tonight. I got to get some sleep. I got to get up for work. But under this administration, we're looking at the end of unions. Trump has taken unions to court, and he has won against some unions. I don't know who did. What is this? I don't know who this. Sorry about that. He's winning against the unions. The unions are making concessions. Unions are not renewing. However, now, I do believe that UAW, Sean Fang, loves the tariffs, and the Teamsters. The Teamsters didn't endorse anybody, but they spoke with Trump. I believe those two unions will survive the fallout of what's to come. But anyway, this is going to be another quick video. And I'm going to show a video.
Coast Amazon workers are on the picket line fighting for a slate of labor demands. The Teamsters Union launched the walkouts at several locations right at the peak of the holiday shopping season.
Workers are calling on Amazon to come to the table and hash things out. And ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest details from one picket line in Queens, New York.
Hey, Eva and Will. So there are about 50 delivery drivers who are on the picket line here out at this Amazon facility in Queens. This is one of several strike sites across the country. You can actually see as the picketers go by, have Amazon vans behind them in the facility that are loading up with packages from me. Some drivers have joined the Teamsters Union. They're trying to force Amazon to the negotiating table. They want better wages, better working conditions. The issue is Amazon does not recognize the Teamsters as a union that represents their employees, and they refuse to the negotiating table. They also are most of them being outsiders, because a lot of them do technically work for a third party, even though that third party often only has Amazon as a client. And where Amazon closed, they often drive Amazon delivery vans. Now, Amazon is this as the picking is ongoing. It's not been disrupted, and customers can still count on their packaging arriving. But the picketers believe they can cause some major issues at a critical time for deliveries. Guys.
All right, Trevor, thank you for that. And joining us now from Burbank, California is Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. Sean, thank you so much for being. I'm curious, this is the second day of the workers on the picket line. What are you hearing from those workers today?
Well, we are slowing the package down. We're stopping packaging, but more importantly, we are letting the general public know that it's not the workers' fault. It's Amazon's fault. They know what they're expected to do. They're hiding behind the DSP model where they're an employer and they're refusing to sit down and bargain. The members of Teamsters, and their argument is contradicting, because if they're saying on one hand that they're not the employer, well, what about JFK? What about the other locations where the direct employees inside organized 2.5 years ago and their refusal to sit down and bargain a contract with the Teamsters Union now? So the message is convoluted and inconsistent. Our goal here is to make sure we represent these workers, make certain that we get them the best wages and Amazon people. They need to come direct and be held accountable.
What is your response to Amazon release accusing the Teamsters and coercing workers to strike?
I think they're describing themselves. They treat their employees with threats and intimidation. Amazon has a history. They've paid over $17 million in 2022 and 2020 workers and coerce and intimidate their workers not to join the union. So that's a false narrative. That's fiction, and they have to.
To this point, what's the move they can use to not do that?
And we are fighting them legally through the National Labor Relations Board. We're just going to over the last 24 hours, a lot of Amazon DSP facilities and direct employees have reached out wanting to join the team. So this is a movement. This is our book. We clearly don't have that amount of money, but we have sweat equity. We've got courage and conviction, and we're going to take on this fight, and we're going to take them down.
Now, you're deep into this. This is taking up a ton of your focus, but a lot of people, a lot of our viewers who are just thinking about getting Christmas, they want to get gifts under the tree. They might not even be aware there's a strike going on, and they want to know where their packages are. What is your message to everyday people who get to hold up in the delivery of the gifts for their family?
Look, the reality is that there's a finger to be pointed. It's at Amazon. And look, we are trying to secure the best wages and best conditions for these workers. And we've got to use our leverage. Homer also has to remember during COVID, the same Amazon employees that were making certain that the general public was provided with the necessary goods and services they need to survive. So if I was going to say anything to these consumers, be patient, but also make certain Amazon's the one that caused this issue, not the drivers, not the Teamsters Union.
All right, holidays.
So, even though that's an old video, however, Trump has fired the head of the NLRB, Wilcox. The lower federal court said that they had to reinstate Wilcox, and they did. However, he won in the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court ruled that he can run his administration how he wants to and appoint who he wants in the NLRB. So he's going to have someone in the NLRB who fits his agenda. This is why they end the unions, at least under this administration. Okay, that was one. And then I wanted to, okay, that was, okay, throw that one out. Oh, I want to do this one. Just give me a minute. What is it? Okay, that's not it. Oh shit, is it in this phone? I got so much going on, y'all. I'm working on 2 phones. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, it's not that one. Okay, I'm about to take that off. All right. Oh, I got to be in this phone. Lord have mercy. Okay. Unions representing federal workers sued the Treasury Department and its head Scott Bessent in an effort to block Elon Musk and his team from accessing the federal payment system, saying that it amounted to an unlawful disclosure of personal and financial information of millions of people. Let me see if I can bring that up. No. The suit was the latest effort by unions representing federal workers to push back against Trump administration directives amid an undermining the federal bureaucracy. Unions representing federal workers sued the Treasury Department and its head, Scott Bessent, in an effort to block Doge from Elon Musk and his team from accessing the federal payment system, saying it amounted to an unlawful disclosure of personal and financial information of millions of people. The suit was the latest effort by unions to push back against a Trump administration directives aimed at undermining federal bureaucracy. Administration officials have made offers to most of the civilian federal workforce seeking resignations, and this dispute over the federal payment system was a part of a wider effort to restrict the disbursement of money for programs approved by Congress. Musk and his lieutenants, representing an outside advisory group aimed at reducing waste in the federal government. The move became a key skirmish in Mr. Musk's wider war on federal bureaucracy, who had refused to give Mr. Musk's team access to the payment system, and former Treasury officials said they were not aware of political appointee ever before seeking access to these details. No, I'm not doing no. No. No, Monday's lawsuit said the system, which seeks out money on behalf of the entire federal government and disbursed more than $5 trillion in fiscal year 2023, includes sensitive information needed to send payments like tax refunds, veterans benefits, salaries for workers, and Social Security payments. Federal law heavily restricts disclosure of that data. The suit accused Mr. Musk and his team that gained access to those records of violating the Privacy Act and the eternal taxpayer and other personal information to those records. The suit also said Mr. Bessent's giving Mr. Musk's team access to the payment system was arbitrary, capricious, and exceeded his statutory authority. The move immediately became a key skirmish in Mr. Musk's wider war on federal bureaucracy. The Trump administration, who had refused to give, pushed out a top Treasury Department official who had refused to give Musk's team access to the payment system, and former Treasury officials said they were not aware of a political appointee ever seeking access to these details. The lawsuit said that the system, which sends out money on behalf of the entire federal government and disperse over more than $5 trillion in 2023, includes sensitive information, tax returns, veterans benefits, salaries for worker, and Social Security payments. Federal law heavily restricts disclosure of that data. The suit accused Mr. Musk and his team that gained access to those records of violating the Privacy Act and Internal Revenue Code, laws that restrict access to taxpayer and other personal information unless the person is an employee engaged in official duties that require having access to those records. The suit also said Mr. Bessent giving Mr. Team Mr. Musteen's access to the payment system was arbitrary, capricious, and exceeded his authority. Okay, so we did that part. Okay, now I'm try to find that. Okay. Okay, here we go. We're gonna start here.
All right, it is no secret that congressional hearings can get heated at times. That's the way the game's played. But there was one hearing battle that topped them all, one that almost became, well, violent. It certainly was epic. Right then and there was Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin versus Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. Here's a reminder what happened. This is back in 23.
Tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Let me read what the last one said. It said, "Greedy, self-made." Sir, I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company myself. Quit the tough guy act. Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Place. Sir, this is a time. This is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
No, stop.
Are you serious? Clit out. Okay. You're a United States Senator.
Stop, please.
Okay. And while they almost came to blows, the two men now are ready to bury the hatchet, saying President Trump has brought them more. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. And also with us, Teamster General President Sean O'Brien. You know, I'm glad you two are together. We don't need to go back and live the past. But Sean, you know, my mom was a prison guard. My dad was a probation officer and a waiter on weekends. I worked from the wash dish every Friday, Saturday night till busboy, waiter, bartender. That was 10 years of my life. 10 years working men and women. No tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security guy.
That's great. You know, and listen, I think everybody's embraced the American worker. I think, look, the Senator and I have put our differences together. We agree on what we can agree on. There's going to be disagreement, and that's the beauty about having dialogue and conversations that, you know, we can maybe issues that work for both people, both sides. And I think right now it's crazy. I mean, you know, the Senator and I have endorsed Congresswoman Laurie Chavez Reamer, and we're working, both of us, to do what's right for the American worker. Now, we can agree to read this program, but the hand right now is getting Laurie Chavez Reamer confirmed, and we're going to work together. And look, we did have a fight. We did have an argument, but it is what it is. It's in the past. Yeah, well, I was going to give him the Matthew Tkachuk, the jersey over the head, and just start throwing. But you know, he's a big, strong, tough guy, and he's you know, what he does.
I'm the guys that more than you were going to get. I want my parents and my grand.
You know, I grew up obviously in a plumbing truck and have been blessed. come in, and it starts with Sean. Why don't you guys just sit down and break bread together? Sean and I broke bread together the first time. We have truly built a friendship ever since then. And it's about setting our differences aside and looking at what we have in common. And when we can get past those differences and we look at, hey, we're still all in this thing together. We're on the same boat. We're trying to row in the same direction. And that's to build a future for the employees that help build the company. But at the same time, the employees don't have a job if the company doesn't exist. So we all got to work together in that matter.
One of the models that comes out of this is that companies let workers enjoy in the profits of the game. Guys, thank you both.
Right.
I had it straight ahead.
That part, enjoy in the profits. Now, this is why I said the end of the unions. Trump is. I wonder if this is the same article.
All right, it is no secret that congressional hearings came. I worked from the time.
Oh, this is the same one. So let me. I must have deleted the wrong one. Hey, Trump won in court.
Is right, Judge. Thank you for saying that. You don't get to substitute your decision making for the president. There are consequences to these firings, and a lot of people are not in good spots right now. Thus, the unions estimate that the termination of all non-essential employees, would cause the unions to lose $15 million, or around 38% of annual due revenue.
$33 billion for Rosa Belarus. Jerry Connolly, a lot of folks know $59 billion, and the leader himself, Hakeem Jeffrey, $91 billion to their state.
There is a pattern afoot. Another big victory for President Trump. This one brought by the National Treasury Employee Unions against Trump. Of course, when Trump wins, the rest of us win because he's executing our will through power. Another set of union cases that should have been dumped. He said, you guys are here complaining about being fired. Those are employment complaints. You got like 5 other boards you can go use to file your complaint there. Don't bring it into this court and demand a TRO or a preliminary injunction to try to stop the executive branch from doing their job. That was one. Now we got another one. We're seeing a pattern emerge. This is good news. You can see this case came out from the Treasury Union against Trump and the Treasury Department. And the judge wrote this, says, look, the first month of Trump's second administration has been defined by an onslaught. That's right. Don't you forget it. It's been one hell of an onslaught. We're just warming up, cracking knuckles. Kash Patel just came in. That have caused, some say by design, disruption and even chaos in widespread corners of American society. It's affected citizens, and their advocates have challenged many of these actions on an emergency basis in this court and others. Certain of Trump's actions have been temporarily halted. Others have been permitted, at least for the time being. Now, these mixed results should surprise no one. Federal judges are duty-bound to decide legal issues on an even-handed application of the law or the identity of the litigants, or regrettably at times, the consequences of their rulings for average people. That is right, Judge. Thank you for saying that. You get to your decision-making for the president. There are consequences to these firings, and a lot of people are not in good spots. They can be in better spots, and their lives are more productive not working for the federal government, but they might disagree with that. But there are consequences for us in not making these reforms, so we have to always keep that in mind. But the judges don't get to substitute their judgment for Rubio, for the State Department, for USAID, for the Treasury Department, for the will of the American people. This case presents challenges to 3 of Trump's recent executives that were aimed at drastic reductions of the federal workforce. The unions are the National Treasury Employees Union, and unions that represent federal employees. They all came in, seek TRO and a preliminary injunction. Again, they're kind of the same thing, just at different stages. One is like urgent, and then you want to see if you can formalize it to prevent the termination of their members. Right? They said that you can't fire all probation employees and their bunch of probationary immediately. They didn't want to stop it up. The inflation below.
Come on, so we can finish.
Administration's program, there was the deferred resignation with pay. So cancel his fork in the road program. Now, for the reasons explained below, this court will deny the union preliminary relief they seek, it likely lacks subject matter jurisdiction to hear your claims. The claims must be brought through the FLRA, Federal Service Labor Management Relations Statute. Go complain somewhere else. On January 20th, the OPM, Office of Personnel Management, often thought of as the Office of Other People's Money, which is our money that they siphoned off into Lord knows where, issued a memo directing federal agencies to identify all employees on probation. And remember, it's not like, bad probation, like you got convicted of a crime and now you're on probation, or you did something bad, so you're on probation. It's like you just got hired, brand new job. So you're on a probationary period to make sure you're kind of competent. Of course, federal government's standards are, what they are. It says probationary employees less than 1 year or less than 2 years in accepted service appointment. Agency heads were directed to send a list of all these probation employees to OPM, and we're going to determine whether we want to retain them here or not. They also requested a determination from each federal agency as to which probationary employees they wished to retain, along with a short justification. And I think it was like 200 characters. Okay, it's like a small form. It's like you start typing, I'm amazing, I did this, and it's like, you're done. What? You get like 2 sentences. What? Justify yourself quickly. The federal government employs an estimated 220,000 probationary employees.
Wow, that's a lot.
Alleged that a mass firing of probationary employees is now underway. It is, they say, but the allegation is not without evidence. Here, right? They got plenty of evidence. On February 11th, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau sent peace to its probationary employees. The FDA and the Department of Energy have cashiered well over a majority of their probationary employees. So FDA knew. DOE, Human Services, Bureau of Land Management, BLM, EPA, National Park Service, FDA also sacked many probationary employees. FDIC, IRS, they're intending to do the same thing too, and that's happening imminently. The IRS is apparently planning to fire thousands of probationary employees as soon as this week. That's good. Meanwhile, on January 20th, Other People's Money sent an email to all federal employees presenting them with a deferred resignation known as fork in the road. The original email went out. We read through some of it. Now, under the terms of the offer, employees who choose to resign would retain all pay and benefits regardless of their daily workload. They would be exempted from all in-work requirements until September. Take the buyout, go on vacation, get a new job. To resign, all employees needed to do is just respond to the email with one word, resign, and then get out. The fork in the road email further noted that OPM could not give full assurance regarding the certainty of your position if you choose to stay. So it's your choice. But if you stay, you fire. It's like as originally announced, opportunity to accept the offer was set to expire. Prior to the deadline, a bunch of whiny unions representing a bunch of whiny federal employees who are civil servants sue their own country who says we can't afford you. They sue us saying I'm a great civil servant and you're going to like my service. You're going to like my servant this to you with this lawsuit, and I'm demanding a fees too. You're welcome. The employees moved for a TRO asking for a stay of the February 6th closing. On February 6th, another judge, George O'Toole, entered a TRO, said the government, you cannot fire people at the end of the fork in the road deadline. Then on February 12th, Judge O'Toole dissolved the restraining order, denied any further preliminary injunction relief because the unions did not have standing to challenge the program, and the court lacked subject matter jurisdiction claims, right? Another judge says, guys, why are you suing? You're a union. Have your union members sue. The program subsequently closed on February 12th, as we saw, and all further resignations were no longer accepted. You made your bed, now you can sleep in it. It says, according to the White House, approximately 75,000 employees, roughly 3% of the workforce, resigned. They took the deal. So then continuing the push to slash the federal workforce, Trump issued another executive order. That executive order included several directives to supposedly eliminate waste, bloat, and insincerity in the federal government. It's true, get rid of them. It says, relevant here, the order directs agency heads to conduct a reduction in force consistent with the law that your agency has and separate from federal service temporary employees or reemployed and new assistants working areas that are going to be subjected to the RIF. The order also says offices that perform functions that are not mandated by statute or other law have to go. If it says we have to keep it, keep it. But if it's like discretionary in any way, that's going to be prioritized in the RIF. And you know what those agencies are, or what those little divisions are? Diversity, equity, and inclusive initiatives. Any of those components suspended or closed, and all components, because they're not mandatory, and employees performing functions that are not mandated also need to go. So then they say, oh my goodness, judge, they fired us. They say that they fired overseas from this, and many people are our members too. So the 5 labor unions all sued. The NFFE, the IAM, the IFPT, UAW, all sued. The unions brought constitutional and statutory challenges. You can't fire us. You can't give us this fork in the road. You can't issue this executive order. Who do you think you are? The President of the United States? They claim that these executive actions violate the separation of powers principles, which they obviously don't care about because they're asking the judge to usurp the executive power. They say they undermine Congress's authority to fund the mission of federal agencies. Yeah. They further claim that the challenged actions and the laws. You can't just fire all the people. Each union has dues-paying members, and they're going to be impacted. To date, approximately 1,250 to 1,500 dues-paying members have been fired. That represents more than $500,000 in revenue to the unions. Isn't that fun? They're like, well, we lost $500,000 because they're not going to pay our dues because Americans aren't employing them anymore. And they're in on the grip. And we're always the ones getting screwed. 90% of members pay union dues, payroll, the top get off the top. So dues members for those who have been terminated, not my paycheck. Isn't that sick? That's why they're suing. They don't care about these employees. They care about these employees' paychecks and skimming a little portion right out than any.
Wow, the IRS employs more union paying. Wow.
Federal agency or department. HHS also accounts for a large number of members too. Thus, the unions estimate that the termination of all non-essential employees, would cause the unions to lose $15 million, or around 38% of all its annual dues revenue. Isn't that interesting? We pay the employees via our taxes, and as a member of the federal government, they join these unions for whatever reason, like they're not ever fired. I mean, it's like, this is why they're all freaked out about this. Like, first time ever they've been actually fired. What? The unions skim 15 money from the unions, goes right back into Democratic coffers, goes right back into Democrats, literally. So they're all just getting paid. That's our money. The NFFE, for its part, has thousands of dues-paying members who are probationary at the U.S. Forest Service, who the termination of them, they can't maintain their membership. Why should they be a part of your union at all? To collective bargain against the government? But the IFPTE also has some dues-paying members who are also going to be fired. The unions filed their complaint 2 days later on Valentine's Day, no less. They moved for a TRO. Like, we love our country. We are civil servants, but we're suing you for everything you've got. Saying you ran the fork in the road and more. The court got the case on the 15th on a Sunday. That same day, ordered immediate briefing and oral arguments. Then the unions amended their complaint, saying even more people are being fired at Department of Ag, Food, Nutrition, and more. Firing people across.
Come on.
These unions and their motion. It lacks subject matter jurisdiction over the claims. Like, this court is the wrong court. You cannot sue for this here. They must pursue their challenges instead through the scheme established by Congress under the Federal Service Labor Management Relations Statute, FSLMRS. That's where administrative review happens for these things. And if you don't like what their result is there, you can go through the Court of Appeals. And this is 2 for 2 now. Actually 3. We've got several of these stacking up. It's basically they have no standing. There's no jurisdiction here. You're in the wrong spot. But these judges have been granting these for the last however many weeks, saying, look, a temporary restraining order like a preliminary injunction is an extraordinary remedy. We can't just hand these out willy-nilly. When considering these things, we got 4 factors: success on the merits, irreparable harm, equities, and public interest. The court considers these in turn. It says, first of all, the unions fail to establish that they're going to win. We don't even have subject matter jurisdiction. So we're going to deny this and deny their request for a TRO and their request for an...
Wow. This why. Wow. This is why the unions locked and Trump. Wow. And now he putting in somebody who's going to be in line with his agenda at the head of the NLRB. And all those jobs that these companies are building are all in red states. They are down south. There are none coming up here because of the union. Facts.
Your case. Here's some background. This law was created back in 1978. It says federal employees can organize and bargain collectively against the federal government. It requires these interventions to negotiate in good faith, establish their administrative and judicial review, like their own internal courts. 3-member agency adjudicates these things. There's negotiability. It's encoded in the U.S. code, and they resolve these things. Direct review of these decisions. So if you're not unhappy with that, you can appeal. The D.C. Circuit has held this scheme is the exclusive procedure by which federal employees and their unions may assert these claims, right? And these unions knew that. They just wanted to sue to gum up TSRA. How much time and money this cost us. These people are scammers. Separately, the CSRA also established a comprehensive system for reviewing personnel. You can go through any of these processes. They knew it, but they sued anyways. Trump's government says you can't hear these claims because this is preclusive. The court employs the framework set out in Thunder Basin, saying the test is ultimately, if you go to another agency and you're not heard in this court, are you going to get a fair shake? Let's find out. Now, the unions don't dispute that the claim or the general the Congress set up. It's about handle label court appearance, like will you get due process and judicial review? Yeah, they don't, but they get a hearing. The harms don't result elsewhere. They don't claim that the statute is unconstitutional. And so their assertion that it cannot recover its relief doesn't change the court's analysis. That might be true, but you can go through them. If there's a constitutional challenge that they can't help us recover, but if absent any challenges to the procedures that they want to circumvent, I can't hear the claim. You got to go through there and say it's unconstitutional over there. Saying the Supreme Court explained that whether a claim is precluded turns on the type of event. You got to take it through the right forum. At bottom, the union's argument sounds in practicality and efficiency, but the D.C. Circuit was unpersuaded by this in another claim. There, they found the other area was more appropriate to hear this, and I can't hear it now. And so the court will deny the union's request for a TRO and for a preliminary injunction, and so it is therefore ordered that the federal government workers unions, 5 of them, and their motion for a TRO and a preliminary injunction is denied. So ordered by Judge Christopher Cooper. Another victory from the United States District Court in Washington, D.C. Another big victory. So there's still a bunch of other judges out there who have bad TROs on the books, but this is starting to be
wow. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Good night.